Hi, I'm John from Two Brothers RC, and it's been a while since we've made one of these tutorials, and with the addition of the Precision Aerobatics Katana 52 to our hangar, we figured it was time to create a more definitive tutorial that actually explains the concepts of 3D flight, instead of just showing you the stick movements, because there's more to it than a stick cam. Flying 3D requires changing the way you think and the way you approach flight. If you're new to 3D flying, you're probably a little unconfident. Maybe you got that surge of adrenaline and that spike of anxiety when your plane gets into an orientation that you're not familiar with. I'll help you build your confidence so that adrenaline and anxiety doesn't overrule your ability to fly, because the adrenaline spike is a big reason why you might screw up and crash. Confidence is everything when flying. A confident pilot can push through their anxiety response and get used to being uncomfortable with a maneuver, to be able to see through the maneuver to completion and break through the mental block preventing them from advancing their skill set. If you're looking to build your skills, you'll have to get used to the idea of being uncomfortable as you learn. Doing things that you're not used to doing will require skills that you'll develop as you continue to push yourself out of your comfort zone. Anxiety is a normal human reaction to the unknown or to what you're uncomfortable doing. Confidence comes naturally as you continue to train your brain to ignore what used to previously induce the anxiety response. The only way to get through that response is to continue exposing yourself to it until your brain ignores it. This is a critical key to flying because the adrenaline released during anxiety-inducing situations will be most likely what causes you to make mistakes while you're piloting. One key to flying is deliberate stick movements. Every person has their own preferences for how to control their sticks, but I will personally guarantee you that smooth and deliberate inputs make a significant difference in the outcome of your flights. You can get some of this smoothness by using expo until the center of the stick feels right to you. The amount of expo to use is entirely a personal choice, regardless of what buttheads on the internet or at your local club might think. There is no right or wrong answer to the amount of expo to use. We tend to fly with 50% expo for 3D planes, coupled with 150% rates, which provides a linear feeling response on the sticks without being too sensitive or too mushy. We encourage you to experiment with expo to find what works best for you and your own preferences. To build confidence, let's work on your Harrier practice. Harriers involve using the elevator to force the wing beyond its critical angle of attack so that the aircraft flies on thrust alone. Directional control is primarily achieved using the rudder, although some aileron opposite to the rudder direction is useful to keep the wings leveled while you're turning. Harriers are a cornerstone of your 3D skill set. If you're new to 3D flying, this will probably be anxiety-inducing. As I've mentioned before, you'll want to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's where most of your skill building is going to come from. If you can Harrier, you've got a good understanding of the basics needed to move to the next step. If you see the wings rocking, try increasing the angle of attack by pulling the elevator more as you add throttle. If they're rocking and it's windy, chances are you're seeing the effect of turbulence on your model. Aircraft with light wing loading like this Katana tend to get disturbed easily by shifting wind. Keep your composure and control the aircraft. It won't crash as long as you keep flying it. If you're ready for it, let's move to inverted Harrier, and it's exactly what you think, the opposite of an upright Harrier. This is a much harder move than upright Harrier. Your pitch control is inverted, up is down and down is up. When the plane comes at you, left rudder makes it go left, but when it flies away, left rudder makes it go right. Kinda weird, huh? It takes a lot of getting used to, so don't feel bad, because you'll probably feel that anxiety response a lot while you're practicing inverted Harrier. Don't feel bad practicing it at altitude, but I would strongly recommend getting used to moving it lower after a few tries. The same techniques with upright Harrier apply here. You'll use rudder to steer and counter the rudder-induced wing drop with aileron input. Before we move on to hovering, know that it took us a long time to get to this level of confidence and to feel okay with teaching other people how to do this. I want you to know that it's okay to fail, because you will, but every mistake is a learning opportunity.
Jesus Christ.
That was a little too close.
Hovering is the next step, and I like to compare hovering to balancing on a broomstick. Newcomers to 3D usually trip up when they start realizing that everything they know about flight is turned on its head. Suddenly the plane controls more like a helicopter. Once it starts torque rolling, that's usually when people freak out. So while we personally consider this to be a basic maneuver, a lot of people think that it's incredibly hard. And you know what? They're right. If you're not hover-minded, it can be really hard. The key to success is realizing how to control the aircraft in all orientations, and to do this, you need to understand that the rudder still controls the yaw of the aircraft, but elevator input now controls whether the aircraft points forward or backward from a 90-degree angle. Once it starts spinning, you have to either throttle out or correct for the spin. Once the plane torque rolls and the belly faces you, rudder and elevator inputs are now both inverted. This means left rudder makes the plane point to the right, and right rudder makes the plane point to the left. Similarly, up elevator makes it pull away, and down elevator pushes it forward. This is what tosses most people for a loop and is where most new pilots find the most difficulty. Push through the anxiety. I know it's uncomfortable, but you can do it, because if I can do this, you can too. You probably won't get this one down easily. It'll take practice, and a lot of it. Nothing about rolling Harriers is intuitive. You're constantly adjusting the plane as it rolls forward, flying purely on thrust. Your rudder and throttle are constantly flicking back and forth. You're rolling all the time, feeding in elevator input while your throttle and rudder kick in. You are dancing with the sticks in every essence of the phrase. Some tips I'd recommend would be to attempt doing this maneuver in pieces. Start by copying the movements you see here on the elevator and aileron stick. As you start getting that part of it down, start feeding in rudder. Once you've got that down, start throttling up and down as you're feeding in rudder. If you time it just right, you've got a rolling Harrier. This is incredibly frustrating for a lot of people, and I personally spent a week practicing the maneuver until I got comfortable doing it. And I still have issues doing it with a right-handed roll. It's something that I need to work on to push my own limits. And again, if I can do this, so can you. The only limit is your imagination. Now that we've moved from basics to intermediate to advanced 3D, let's move back to some of the basics again. Knife edge is a great technique that's easy to perform and only throws a few tricks at you. Entrance is everything. Always enter with smooth and deliberate inputs. Some airframes tolerate a sloppy entrance, the katana does not. The key to successful knife edge is holding rudder input and correcting any deviation with slight amounts of aileron or elevator as needed. Hold and apply throttle as needed to correct the plane's flight so that it flies level or flies in a circle. However you want to fly knife edge is up to you. Just remember that there's usually a little more to it than holding rudder input alone. Elevators are simple, low-power or unpowered falls. The model just drops from the sky with the elevator peg to control its descent. There's not a whole lot to it. We found that the katana performs basically the same with both ailerons pointed up or with them level with the wing. It really makes no difference. It's a fun and simple maneuver that can be used to transition to other maneuvers. Moving back to intermediate maneuvers, the knife edge spin continues to be my favorite to perform. Doubly so now that the katana screams when it's done right. To begin, you hold down full down elevator, slight left aileron, and full right rudder with mid to high throttle. It should begin to spin around its wings while it falls vertically. It's a hell of a racket, and it sounds incredible when it's done right. This is a maneuver that brings eyeballs to everything that you're doing. People can't help but look at it because it commands attention and respect. Walls and waterfalls are two simple maneuvers commonly chained together. The key to success with both is timing stick movements, which you can see on screen right now. Walls require precise throttle cutting as you apply elevator. Waterfalls require precise throttle timing as you push the elevator down. When timed correctly, the inertia and prop wash will cause the aircraft to perform spectacular post-stall maneuvers. This happens so quick that I've had to slow this down 3 times to really show off how it's done. Poptops are basically forcing the plane to perform a quick flat spin while defying gravity. The same moveset is performed to create a blender, only the aircraft points down from a 90-degree angle at full speed instead before initiating the move. I decided to consolidate the two moves here since the stick movements are identical between them. The key here is to ensure that you're cutting throttle and using what remains of the inertia to swing the tail around violently. The stick sweep on the ailerons causes the wings to flatten out while it spins. This creates a very impressive dead stop in the sky, which allows you to transition to another move or reposition for a better angle. Speaking of repositioning, snap rolls are great for changing directions if you chop throttle in the roll and then apply it again as the plane comes to a dead stop. This can be used in unpredictable ways or otherwise can be used to add some variety to your 3D performances. The final move I'll discuss in this vid is the crankshaft. This one was incredibly difficult to perform without a balsa model. Katana does it flawlessly. The stick movements aren't difficult to learn, it's just a matter of timing and ensuring that you pulse the throttle while maintaining rudder to keep the spin going for as long as you want. The inertia and overall look and feel of this maneuver creates an exceptional tumble that's sure to amaze your buddies. When it comes to landing, most lightly loaded 3D models require some consistent amount of throttle to bring in without stalling, because once they stall, they kind of drop like a rock. Make sure you're keeping in some throttle while you're landing and maintaining an angle of attack that will bring the plane down for a 3-point landing. The prop clearance for most 3D planes is so small that you run the risk of prop striking the pavement or the grass if you attempt a wheel landing. Harriers can also be used to transition into a landing if you want even more control over the approach. There's more to the world of 3D that we'll cover in the future, but for now, we're hoping that this in-depth guide to some beginner, intermediate, and advanced maneuvers helps you out and makes you realize that you can do this too. Flying is a skill like anything else. The more you practice flying, especially in ways that are challenging or out of your comfort zone, the better you'll get. If improving your skills is your goal, I hope this video helped out. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and send in some footage of your own 3D flying on our Discord server in the description. We'd love to see it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next upload.